how do you make it look like a church without it looking like a church? That's pretty hard to do sometimes.
I'm going to tell you something, Daniel. Now you're going to get on my pet peeve here because I think there is...
All right. Guess we just want to jump right in.
Yeah.
All right. So, welcome back to Architecture Distilled. This is another episode installment with Paul Cook, who I've known for, I don't know, since I was 15 years old.
So let's do the math.
So,
How long? What is that?
25 years. Is that what it is? Yeah. So, Paul's got me into architecture a little bit, kind of encouraged me down that road. So, a lot of emotional, just thought going on there of just like the things that I've been through with you, and just a lot of words of encouragement throughout the years that I've had from you. So it's an honor to have you
Thank you.
on here. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a wannabe architect.
There you go.
My qualification is I have opinions. That's about it. And I see. Yeah. Anyway, I mentor a lot of young men, and sometimes I see them in their stage of life where they're trying to find themselves, and often I see something in them that they kind of don't see themselves, or maybe have fully put their confidence in. And that's sort of what I saw in Andrew, was this skill set that was like, Andrew, you got this, man. This is really cool. And I remember I went up to visit Andrew at Bowling Green. Been through pretty tough time with the whole military part of your scene, and some disappointing stuff. And it was just like in that little crack in time when things weren't the greatest. And there in college, just kind of lonely and in the architecture department. And when I walked through that architecture department, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Andrew, you're so awesome. This is such a great opportunity. And then you and I worked together with some stuff too.
I think it was that summer.
Yeah. And so I saw that promise. But I've always liked construction, Daniel. I mean, I've been around the church and had to hustle a little bit to build my own houses and build church things. And, so I've been around a lot of construction, and I just like it. I just like the whole process. Anything. I like when they turn the dirt. I like the smell of the wood. I like the design. I like everything about it. And I'm not detailed enough to create what I like, but I love it when people have the skill sets that you guys have, that come to the table and can put it on paper and really make it come alive. Yeah.
That's kind of the essence of what clients are looking for from architects in general is, hey, I've got this ethereal thing. We need to make it more concrete. Yeah. That's kind of how Andrew's, our little architecture starting kind of, phrase. That's kind of the essence of it,
Yeah, where architecture doesn't start with an architect, but
and it doesn't end with an architect.
And it doesn't end with an architect. Yeah.
Okay. How so?
And so, saying the idea didn't originate from an architect.
Okay.
A lot of the times. Now, sometimes you can argue, it came from the architect, but the project didn't initiate with the architect. Yeah. It started with a problem, and that person then needed an architect, or sometimes didn't need an architect. But and then the end result.
I'm going to disagree with you there. Everybody needs an architect.
Oh, no. Hey, no, you can go up in Oklahoma. I'm telling you, you don't need an architect. You don't need to pull a permit.
Sounds like Houston.
You don't need
you just build it. If nobody sees it, you're good. Yeah, that's great.
It might fall down tomorrow.
Yeah, it might not be exactly what you want.
Yeah. But the end result doesn't end with an architect. So,
we don't use the building.
We're sitting in a building right now. Does it necessarily have the architect in it? No.
Right.
So it doesn't. So the end result doesn't always have the architect. And so I guess my whole point on that is that does the architect really matter completely in the whole essence of architecture?
I don't know, man. I think I have a pretty high value for architects. I just love looking through the books and seeing what comes out of people's brains. It's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, and and I've always found it interesting, in the world of architecture, at least here in the States, or in my experience, is that there's also two kinds of architecture. There's the design oriented architect and the detail oriented architect, right?
Okay, that's
true.
I'm admittedly not the strongest design architect out there. I think I can put any building together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I like figuring out how to make that design happen.
It's a different kind of creativity, though.
It's
I mean, one is aesthetics. The other is has a certain kind of. It's creativity. It's still creativity.
It's architectural engineering, maybe, is the closest term.
You still need
wanna
both.
You still got
need somebody that can put together a strong, beautiful, like aesthetic building, and then you also need somebody that can figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
If Andrew and I had a bunch of money, we could make our mark on the world. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But when he came back from Bowling Green to Westerville, Ohio, I had bought this house, and it was just kind of like a cracker box, rubber stamp in a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It was actually, there were some nice homes in that neighborhood that tended toward custom. This was not the one.
No.
It was just a box. And
well, when he left it was.
Yeah. So I told Andrew, I said, man, I want to do something different with this house. And so my wife was going out of town for 6 days. And I thought in my mind, basically, I could remodel this house in 6 days. Well, it kind of turned into something. We were going to just put a floor down, and as we started looking at it, Andrew and I started drawing out everything. He drew cabinets, and we reconfigured it, and we moved walls, sometimes just barely, like 4 inches, and did all this stuff. And my wife came home, and let me tell you, for the next 6 months, we had a microwave in our upstairs bathroom, and that was the kitchen. She hated me. But that house was cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it turned out nice.
It was fun. It was so fun.
There was no island in there. We took the island completely out.
Yeah, it had those soffits, over the cabinets, like the old school soffits.
Yeah.
We took the cabinets to the ceiling.
Yeah.
We did some open cabinets. We did some laminate, like modern stuff. We took out a pantry and built in some really cool stuff.
Did a nice built-in pantry.
The flooring was amazing.
Turned the what was the dining room into the laundry room, wasn't it?
With an office for my wife,
Yeah. It was like a multi-purpose
right. And
space.
so when you entered the foyer, you were looking at this mirror, but the mirror was a door, and it led to that.
Oh, okay.
It led to that space. It was so fun to build.
Yeah.
And we ran out of money.
house.
We didn't go upstairs. That would have been fun too. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a forewarn anybody out there wanting to get involved with an architect, male or female,
Yeah.
your house is never going to be always put together.
No. I mean, you're always ripping stuff
Always
apart.
going to be tearing stuff apart
Yeah.
to do something different.
Yeah.
I saw this house up in Melissa, and that look in my wife's eye, like, no, please, don't do it. I was like,
do it.
oh, babe, this is the value is here, and you could put $400,000 in this house, and it's
potential.
it's gonna be amazing, And she's like, she's
Nope.
not loving that idea. She's done with me.
Yeah. For me, I had the other house, call it the Maple House, over there in the colony. And before we even moved into the house, my dad and I were ripping things apart.
We
We
tore
moved
up the
walls.
kitchen like day one, right?
Yeah. We're
Complete different configuration.
beating the heck out of ourselves trying to pull up tile and whatnot. And then, I mean, that house still isn't done completely.
No.
But it's getting there.
Yeah.
It's still, but once it's done, it's going to look pretty nice.
Is
it
that
looks
what every
pretty nice
architect
now.
tells his spouse? It's getting there.
It's
getting
almost
there.
done.
Yeah.
Almost done. Yeah.
I think that's why my wife and I, man, she couldn't handle it. She was just like, it's always a construction site.
Yeah.
So she couldn't handle it. And so when we went to look for a house,
Yeah.
it had to
turnkey.
be done.
Yeah.
Mostly there. You know, we might eventually
just one day you're gonna knock that wall out right there.
Yeah.
She won't even know. You'll do it while she's gone.
But your experience is a lot in commercial.
The vast majority of my experience is in commercial. Yeah. I started in '97 doing like retail shopping centers. Then I moved over to doing airports, and then 9/11 crushed that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, and then I've done churches and all sorts of ecclesiastic facilities.
Really? That's kind of an interesting marriage, though, between what you're doing now. You guys sharing kind of like a vision for a house, let's say. How does that work between you all two? How do you play off of one another?
Well, Andrew is our primary designer, and I tend to come back in the back end and figure out how to make that thing happen as it is, as it's been designed. Yeah, I have my suggestions. I completely destroyed his plan yesterday. He's like, damn, I got to go do that now.
Yeah.
Well, I showed him something. I suggested something. I was like, man, we just need to get rid of these gables across the back here. And then Daniel's like, well, what if we just did one gable? And I was just looking at it. I was like,
that might work.
That actually makes more sense because then we can get more windows and make it even more
vaulted ceilings, all sorts. Yeah.
So then
I'm good at messing things up. I guess.
Yeah, that's your job.
Especially right when I'm about to send everything to the engineer.
Yeah, he was just ready to push click on send.
Yeah, but I mean it's good because that's the thing. Like both of us want to put forth our best. Mm-hmm. It's not just something small, we want to put forth the best that we can with this house. We're talking about the Cliffbrook house for distilled homes. So I mean, we just want this thing to come across, good. But of course, we need to get it out there because it needs to happen.
Yeah, we got to get it. Yeah, we're working on it. We'll have to talk about that at length sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's our goal is me and Andrew and anybody that is involved in our projects, we want everybody to produce and act and be the best that they can to produce the best that they can,
Yeah.
We don't want anybody to just do something just because it's easy. We don't want the easy way out. We want the right way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just throwing it in there, with my slogan, pure quality. Refined living.
Yes.
Pure quality, refined living. So what is pure quality, which is what you said? What's refined living?
So refined living would just be, like the whole distilled thing, that
final product
theme or whatever, the final product, when you're living in the house, it's very refined.
Yes.
You're not just in another home.
I don't think you're ever sad about doing something over the top when you actually have it afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew designed. You should come up to Oklahoma and see.
Bug tussle.
Bug tussle. Yeah, the glorious. And my wife said, call it Juniper Point because there's another spot over there called Juniper Point. I like bug tussle, man.
It's fun to say.
Yeah. Anyway, the house is really so cool. And some of the most expensive decisions we made on it are still my favorite, things that we did. And it was like, I can't afford to do this. Like, for instance, reclaiming having reclaimed flooring from the 30s and 40s. It was a mix of white pine, white oak and red oak, and redid the floors. And they came from different houses, so the tongue and groove didn't quite match, so every one of them had to be touched, every one of them had to be rerouted, and we married them all together. But that floor is just pops, and so much.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah, it's fun. Andrew designed it. It's really cool.
Yeah, that one was fun.
Yeah, you don't regret doing it right. And then I got this stove from Europe that was it was twice as much as any stove I could find around here. And I'm like, of course that's going to be the one I love, and I tried to talk myself out of it. And then one day I just went over there and put it on a credit card. Might still be paying for it. I don't know.
It's not very big. It's just this round stove, kind of old looking stove, but it's like modernized.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's a circle.
Well, I mean, I think Dr. Mike said it pretty well that if you're gonna use something a lot, spend money on it.
Oh, there you
right,
go. Like a fireplace at a cabin.
Exactly. He was giving the example that he was proliferating these dual monitors all over the office, and the boss didn't like that. It was too expensive. He's like, well, look, you spend X number of dollars on your car, and you're in that for 12 minutes a day.
That's good. No, that's awesome.
Right? Why not spend,
Same like with chairs, right? Like you're going to sit in a certain chair that's kind of like your chair.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Get the one you want.
That's right.
It's something that's...
It's like a bed. You don't want to don't cheap out on your mattress because you spend a third of your life in it.
Yeah. There you go.
$6 grand
Some more than others,
I need to spend more time in mine.
Yeah. So I kind of want to dive into like some of like your experience with not just me, like architecturally, but like your experience on other projects in the past, because I know you've done some different church like projects in the past, even before I even decided to get into architecture.
Yeah, what do they call it? Bootstrapping, when you're just like trying to make it happen on the cheap, always had like grand designs. I built something in Atlanta, and I copied it after a community center, and I wanted it to be curved with these two round pieces anchoring each end and curved, to meet. So we were going to build a church, but instead of building a typical church, we built the administrative building first, and then we were going to use it as the church, and then I had a design to go around that. Well, when it got fleshed out, the money and the economics and the budget, we were like, he was like, man, you can't do curve. Everything's going to cost more. Everything doubles, everything, and he's just talked me out of that and built the two end pieces, My dad called them Pizza Huts. He looked like Pizza Huts when he he's saying that. It did turn out kind of cool, though. We found these antebellum pillars that had come off of a big mansion. And they were,
that's cool.
I don't know, diameter, but maybe 3-4 feet. They're huge. And we put those big columns across the front, repurposed them, and built that thing. People would drive by and they're like, what is this? It didn't look like a church, which was kind of cool. I think that's a wave, like build a church to be something. It can be multiple things, not just a ecclesiastical space.
Yeah. I always found that it's somewhat frustrating, but also interesting that it's trying to design brand new facilities for a church. How do you make it look like a church without it looking like a church? That's pretty hard to do sometimes.
I'm going to tell you something, Daniel. Now you're going to get on my pet peeve here because I think there is... there's a wave coming in society, an attitude toward church that is kind of like a eye roll a little bit. Like there's so much money goes into churches and their facilities and properties, and often that you're going to use them on a Sunday. And you could maybe justify that by saying, hey, it's to the glory of God. It's like a billboard for God or something, But I think that in practicality, there's a lot of needs in the world, and we're spending a bunch of money on real estate. And I'm all in, with the church, obviously, but I think facilities need to speak to the community and the community needs. They need to make sense financially. They need to be utilitarian. And that doesn't mean they have to be ugly or a box, but they need to kind of think forward like, well, what are you using this for?
I agree.
7 days a week, not just Sunday.
I agree. I found it interesting that we would be designing these giant facilities, 800-900 seat auditoriums, and because they're using them once a week, once
for
a week,
2 hours or 5.
Yeah. And
how do you I don't want to be cynical, but I think that the
what's the justification?
Right. What's the justification? It's an inordinate amount of money on a piece of real estate if you don't have a higher purpose. No other business in America would do that. Except a church.
Right.
They just wouldn't do it. So, so why does it make sense in the church? I think something's askew. So anyway,
you think
like I said, you hit on my hot button.
You think the fact that they're tax-free organizations lends to that? If they had to pay taxes, well, we can't build such a facility now. We have to pare it back.
No, I think it's a mindset. I think it's more than that. It's a system that's, okay, all right, you ready? Here we go.
Let's go for it. That's what we're here for.
I mean, like, we in the West have a model of church that's attractional and institutional. Mm-hmm. But think about the way that Jesus started with his tribe. It was not institutional. He didn't tell you how to structure anything. It was not attractional. He was telling people, take up my cross and follow me, and if you don't, well, a lot of people walked away because it was hard. People died for this, right? It was an illegal religion for 300 years. It did not have an institution. Form followed function. So they would organize, but it was only because they had to organize. Like, say, for instance, the widows needed fed. They were growing like crazy. People were giving to feed these widows and maybe some of the fatherless. And so they had to organize around that. So form followed function. So there was some institutional effort, organized effort, but that wasn't the platform it was built on. It was built on a missional, relational platform, right? So we have in the West this institutional, attractional model, and I think it has a shelf life. And if you can't take that model and translate it over into the poorest place in a third world country, then maybe it's not the model Jesus had in the first place.
Yeah.
We could have a long conversation about organized religion. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a misuse of funds. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's, and so now what do? You got all these buildings. Some of them they can't even keep up with in mainline churches. They're beautiful. They're gargantuan. They're crazy albatross to manage, It's just a white elephant.
Like how much debt are you going into just to build those,
or even just to put it back to repair,
repair and upkeep and all that stuff.
So we have to think differently, and I think we got to go back to a relational, missional model, which is very relational. It's home. It's and churches are by the way, and buildings and real estate are by the way. And if you're going to build one, do something that's life-giving, something that's that adds value to the community, that's a win for everybody, not just a Sunday meeting.
That makes me think about that. What's it called? Epic in north of Fort Worth, right? Or is it up somewhere up in North Texas? It's called it's the East Plano Islamic Center.
Okay.
Have you heard about this?
Oh, yes. No, it's in. They're looking at someplace out toward Nevada or
maybe
Josephine.
There's this whole uproar about the fact that it's Islamic, even though it's just a community-driven thing. And that I don't understand.
Is it like a 1,000-acre community?
Something like that. It's supposed to have retail and living and
schools.
Just schools also. I mean, it's just a community, and I don't understand this huge uproar about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, it's no different than any other religious group trying to do something for their community,
I mean, they're just like, I guess getting into that, the Jewish community, I mean, they're all in one area.
Yeah, they've done the same thing all over America, hundreds of years.
Yeah. I have a Muslim client that he wanted to build a community center in Princeton, actually. And I reached out to several contractors to try to get just some basic pricing. They're like, oh, no, we're a Christian organization. We don't want to deal with that. I'm like, well, you're judging them? How is that?
I'm going to tell you what, though.
Their money's green, too, right?
What is it up in McKinney? There's that, or North Allen. There's a Hindu temple up there that's like white and gold. And I'm like, oh, I would have hated to have been the neighbor behind that because I don't care what religion this is. It was just an eyesore, man.
We've got a whole domain set up for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean it's like it's just something from another world. You know what I mean? That doesn't fit inside of like a North Texas neighborhood. It looks so funny. So religion aside, it was just kind of. But I mean, it's the same kind of principle there. Now, not like the epic community that you're talking about, but the temple there is also a gargantuan effort for a small gathering type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, money could be better spent.
Yeah.
That's almost the case in every situation.
Yeah.
I could buy that Ferrari.
Yeah.
But
beauty. There's a side to spending money on architecture that beauty is just beauty for itself. And to do something that's cool and to do something that's noteworthy. I never want to build anything that doesn't make you just like some part of it make you want to go Now that's cool.
I mean, you have to spend the money, spend it well, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't spend it just to spend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going into that whole thing we were talking about, just if you're going to use it, spend your money in it.
Mm-hmm. We have a child care center in our building. That building gets used so much. And to me, that's the most life-giving thing we've done for our community is create a place for kids, and it changes their lives. It brings parents together. It does a lot for families. It's a heavy lift. Is the juice worth the squeeze financially? No. But
morally, it's good morally, though.
It's a good use of the building. To me, it's good stewardship. And anything you do that's along those lines, to me, I think they can generate revenue, right? Another thing we do is we share. So our building is used by 5 different congregations. And so, we just fill in every slot around there. And it monetizes and everybody gets a piece of a blessing.
Yeah. Everybody gets to use the space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering, just because we talk about housing a lot because that's a huge issue on the planet. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, you think about the tax exempt organizations like churches, or religious organizations. Is there an avenue for them to provide low income housing, tax, exempt of taxes on the construction in order to drop because the construction cost is our issue, right? With the housing, generally.
Yeah.
Huge portion of it, yeah.
I mean, speaking about doing things for the community,
I've seen a lot of churches do like retirement, like villages.
Yeah.
And I would imagine those got some kind of reprieve from tax, or abatement of some sort.
Yeah. I wonder if like cities or municipalities just foregoing land tax or something on things like that, for so many years or whatever would
So how is it any different from like a nonprofit just coming in? Just a regular nonprofit doesn't even have to be religious.
Well, that's true.
So,
I mean,
you see a lot of those come in and do similar things, I guess. I guess cities give you some kind of kickback on those, and sometimes they try to kick you out too because they don't want any of that around.
I'm sure in some parts of the country it's a little bit harder to get those won.
I think I don't think he was the mayor of Wiley, but I think he was somebody that was involved in the community there, and he talked about some of that stuff of like they're welcoming a lot of these kind of low income housing and just kind of give back community kind of mindset rather than like trying to push that stuff out. They were trying to be very accepting of it.
Well, I was just down in Austin a few months back and visited a 50-acre development and another that had a 50-acre development across the street. I believe the guy that whose brainchild this was named Alan Graham. He was in construction and real estate development, but they're homeless villages. Okay. So what they found was that a lot of the homeless people that were on the streets, I think their phrase is like, the problem for homeless is not a home, it's community and the social aspect. So sometimes they provide something that they needed, and they would go back to the community because that was part of it, was they were missing family and brokenness and social things. So they created this village to kind of create this, and they did a lot of tiny homes. I think the
community here.
Mm-hmm, what do they call that? 3D homes.
The 3D printed homes. Yeah.
The first one in Texas was in that village.
That's right.
And it's pretty cool. I walked in it. It was a little odd in some ways. Like the interior door thresholds were kind of like a little odd, but some things didn't work on the inside.
Like just starting out with that whole 3D printing and trying to figure out things.
Yeah, it looked like sacks of concrete on top of each other. I mean, it wasn't. The outside was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's come a long ways now.
The whole prefab 3D printing, all that. That's on its way. I mean, we're still decades from it. You know, I think. But I
mean, Texas. I think Texas is leading the.
Well, we've got enough cheap land that you can.
What do you think about container homes? Do you think they've
those
lived their
nuts.
life? Yeah,
I don't.
Overblown.
They're a gimmick.
Yeah.
I mean they work. They're more effort to make happen than people think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when I see people cutting it up and putting all these things and redoing that, I'm like, wow, we could have built the whole thing from the ground up.
Exactly.
Or you could have gone to a prefab place and done something similar, you know.
Build me a 40-foot long box.
Yes.
But got you
how hard is that, right?
You know, that's my thing against them is like you spend all this money to get the container. Now you got to clean this container because it's probably got all its chemicals in it.
It's rusting
or
somewhere.
You buy a brand new one, which is
too
probably as much as you're spending trying to clean it.
Oh my gosh.
And then before you even get it out onto the site to do anything with it.
Yeah, you got to move it, haul it.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool looking.
It is, yeah.
Don't get me wrong on that. Like, I think it's cool looking. And one of my classmates in college did a whole project on.
I think if you bought a piece of land, there were two of them laying there. You know, it makes sense to put it together and do something with it. But if you had to go from the ground up, just build something.
I agree.
I
build something and then skin it with a container skin.
Yeah, something like
there you go. Yeah. I like the prefab world better than I like that container home.
Yeah, I haven't had a whole lot of experience seeing prefab like on site. I like the idea of the concrete tilt up, you know, commercial buildings. Do they have problems? I mean, I know they go up fast.
They go up fast.
No, they're just. We just had this conversation yesterday for a project. It's like you got concrete, CMU, wood, and steel. Four primary ones that we'd build any commercial building out of, right?
Yeah.
Concrete tilt wall is generally the most expensive of all of them because you have to have a crane
to get it up.
A big crane, not just a tiny crane, but a big crane to get them up. And then you have to have enough space on the site to cast them. You know, so there's a lot of things.
Because you have to kind of cast them on the outside of the space and then tilt them up.
That's correct. Yeah.
And they have to be relatively flat, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, they got to be extremely flat. Yeah.
And there's a lot more concrete just to reinforce it, to stand it up, too. Like, to keep it standing while you're putting the rest of the structure together.
There's a lot.
Do people do it because of speed? Is that the main reason?
Yeah, so if you got if your building's over 20,000 square feet and you've got enough site space and the building's relatively rectangular, you can do that pretty efficiently. You know, the building we were talking about yesterday it would work, except that one side of it has got this angle going through the building because of setbacks and all that. Like, okay, well, now we have to pour casting beds off site. Like, well, this is not going to work at all.
Yeah.
So. And then you put the tariffs on top of it, as we were talking yesterday. The alternative right now seems to be locally sourced wood. Southern yellow pine, no burnt, nothing from Canada, just...
Yeah.
So what about I love the look of a lot of the modern houses, that have concrete walls, and they kind of have the little holes where they've got. What is that? What is that process? Is that just a poured wall?
Yeah, that's just a poured wall, and those
like a basement.
The holes are the holes are the things holding the forms together.
Oh,
and then when you take the forms away, the holes are still there. So they just leave it. Yeah.
Philip Johnson
is huge on that.
Yeah.
Philip Johnson, Tato Ando.
Yeah. What are you a fan of that, or is?
Well, I think it looks great. I mean, it looks great. I mean,
I love like Tato Ando stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go look at one over in Fort Worth.
Yeah, I went to that.
I mean, his whole thing too is like that smoothness of that concrete. I mean,
your face against it.
You put your face up against it.
Yeah. That level, you're talking you have to get cabinet grade plywood. You know, you're not just forming it up with regular old exterior plywood because it's got burrs and stuff. And
But I've also seen it formed up with like wood that has a lot of grain and it's been used almost like sidewalk.
Board formed.
I think it's a cool look.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's how, you know, when concrete is first getting formed, that's how, when we started using it, that's how it was formed, board formed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to exclude the Romans. I can't remember how they did it all.
So what would you say would be the advantage of that? Why do that? And would you, I mean, if you just, is it a financial thing that would keep you from doing that, or what would be?
Well, if that's the look you're going for, then
it's more about a look.
I think it's more about the look because structurally, financially, there's a lot of other ways to do it, you know.
Yeah. Like right now, there's mass timber, which you can
What
get.
is it?
Mass timber. So
Mass.
Yeah. Big, anything over a 2x8.
Yeah.
Or everything over 2x12
Well, I mean,
or something. Anyway,
you got your regular timbers, but then you have mass timber. That's kind of these giant wood panels that are basically plywood, but on a much bigger scale, like bigger than some of these walls in here.
Okay.
And you build these whole like floor systems, wall systems, and everything.
Oh,
and it's
weren't
kind
you
of just
talking
like,
about building a skyscraper like that too?
Yeah. I think the code now allows for like 18 stories of wood.
Yeah,
something like that.
I think it keeps getting bigger. Yeah.
So you get mass timber and cross laminated timber and dowel laminated timber and
all of them can be beautiful.
They're gorgeous. There's a building over off of
121
an office building in the Colony. It just got done. And you walk, it's just gorgeous. It's all exposed wood. It's all CLT.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
So if you were going to build a standout, 1,500 square foot house on a cool lot,
that's one way you could do it.
What would you go for?
I would do the cross laminated.
Yeah, I mean that's a budget thing. Also, if you're building 1,500 square feet, but you can afford 5,000 square feet, then we can.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, if you wanted to, something that's going to go in a magazine.
Oh yeah.
What kind of materials would you guys use?
I would use concrete, and I'd probably use poured concrete and CLTs and mass timber.
CLT?
Cross laminated timber.
Okay,
That's what you do. It's giant. Giant format.
Oh yeah, they've been around since the 70s. That was so popular in the 80s and the 70s. The laminated. I kind of come back.
The wood look. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, very popular.
Yeah.
And then now, you've got it on a much bigger scale with these giant like panels that are just made out of wood.
I just would love once in my life to just build something from the ground up that was like just stellar. Like you drove by it and you just go, I like that.
Yeah.
And you just like it 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And that's hard, right? Because styles change, so you got to figure out how to build something that's timeless.
I know, but you look at some of the stuff, Frank Lloyd Wright stuff. You know what era it's from, but it's always respectable. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, there's all the greats. Mies van der Rohe, the Philip Johnsons of the world.
Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, they create timeless things, and that's what you're striving for. Is a timeless design.
It's like a sculpture. It's like something it's art. It's not just a building.
That's right.
I want to build it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Anybody want to write a check?
If we find anybody out there want to write a check to us to build something.
Patrons. That's what you think. Some of these architects were fortunate enough to get a patron that just believed, and that could and just funded them. And so you build one, that's a standout, and it gets some attention, and now you got some business.
Yeah.
The next one's got to be a standout too, right? You can't under-deliver the second one.
Yeah, how do you...
that's true.
How do you not... Yeah.
I see in Plano, they're going back through those 80s houses, and people are picking them up and redoing the inside and doing some commendable work, taking a house that they bought for, maybe in a kind of a distressed shape, high 300s, turn it into something worth close to $6. And you walk in, and if you're a carpentry person like we would be aware, you kind of look at a couple things and go, hey, you cheated the corner there a little bit, But the look
ran
and
out
feel,
of money right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Ran across that looking for the house we just bought. We ran across that a few times.
You know too much.
Like, ma'am, is they going to fix that giant hole at the bottom of that sheet?
Yeah. Yeah, tape all over everything.
Yeah.
We're kind of
Blue
talking
tape.
about art. You're diving into art now, or you have been for a while, but you're really starting to kind of come out with kind of this niche in a way with the whole maps.
If I'm doing a lot of painting, it's because I'm running from something else. So just know that I start getting prolific, something's wrong. You know how you just want to do the thing that's fun, you know? So, I'm out painting. My wife comes out and just stands in the door and kind of puts her hand on her hip like, really? You're out here still, you know? But
I swear I'll get to that to-do list.
I know. And my to-do lists are long, right? So it's hard to justify the fun stuff, but I still do.
Yeah.
But it's maps. You know, have you ever seen anything I've done?
No, I don't think so.
Large profile maps. Maps tell a story. They tell a story of man imposing himself on the land, and the land imposing itself on man. And it's a little bit like our stories, right? We all have some realities that we're trying to navigate. And you do your best to engineer around your life. There's only so much time you have and money and resource to fully engineer around all of the problems of life. Some of them are just annoying problems. You know, so we're all unique. You look at a city, if you know the city, you know, oh, that's such and such a city, and every city's different because they're navigating different things. So, you know, I think maps, so what I do is I take a focus and I build a story out of it, you know, like an area, and I write the story, and then I do the map. So the map tells that story of that region, and it's a lot of times it's from a time frame, like it can be from the early 1900s, or it can be modern maps, or whatever. Yeah.
And you've messed around with different styles too. It seems like just different.
I don't know if that's good or bad. You know, I just I don't have one way of doing it. I guess there's some things that can be typical, but. Yeah, I guess I'm ADD.
I don't think there's ever been any artist that had one style and they never deviated from it. I mean, every great painter you see has multiple styles that they went through.
Yeah,
that generally one of their periods blew up, you know.
Well, like Picasso, you know, he could do and did traditional art, you know, and then it morphed to Cubism and the different ways, and even that just continued to evolve.
Just like the brush strokes that they did, just different techniques that they would come up with that set them apart from other artists, I think is what some of the more popular ones, or the more famous ones, I guess.
For me, the thing that stays constant is oil paint. I grew up, my grandmother's house, she was an artist, and she was quite prolific landscape artist. And that smell of linseed oil and oil paints, just, I don't know, it's comforting or something. So I never want to do acrylic, and acrylic's a little bright for me, whereas oils kind of have softer tones, and you can do more with them, plus they're more pliable.
So you can work them longer. And
sometimes only have 2 hours, and I have to be gone for a day, even a day and a half, and come back, and if you've laid it on thick, you can get that stuff active again.
Wow.
So I love oil. I'll use plaster, concrete, coffee. I've used, you know, paper, collage. There's a lot of things that go into it to create texture, and depending on the area. But but probably the only constant in there is large profile and oil paints.
What's your take on digital art, where people are using? I've read a little bit about this, but people using AI image generators to generate a piece of art that is a custom, unique piece of art. And I've seen where they enter these things into normal art contests, and some of them have won, and some people have complained about it. And I've seen where they've set aside a different category for AI art.
Yeah, is it printed, or are you talking about they've used AI to kind of create it as a model and then crafted it?
Most of the time, you're crafting a set of, to get the image generated, you're crafting a set of prompts, and it generates the image, and then they just print the image out.
Yeah.
They're not hand recreating the image.
I mean, I think all creativity is valuable. I mean, it's different strokes for different folks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who wants it? Who loves it? So if somebody loves it, hey, that's art.
And I think it's the reaction too of the people, like who's looking at your art, and how they're reacting to it. And
you can't tell if you put two pieces of art next to each other. You can't tell if one of them's AI generated if they're both just printed.
Yeah.
Because you paint something, it's going to have texture on it. And the AI printable
I can't
won't.
hardly do anything. I would not buy anything that's just printed. I just can't do it. I can't go up to something and look at it and go, oh, well, that's a chiclet of an actual piece of art. Then I don't want it.
Yeah.
I want the
something
texture,
the
that's
original
real.
texture.
I just don't like the print. In hotels, even high-end hotels, I don't know, something annoying about it. I don't know. It's not real art.
That's probably a budgetary issue.
Yeah, I watched this one reel too, where a guy, he just makes fun of people that do all these art forms, and they're just like, throw some paint on a canvas and then slap a stick against it, a tree, and he just lampoons it the whole time. These different artists, and he's just like shaking his head. And I mean, I feel a little bit that way when people aren't really spending time, really thinking about their art. They're just slapping something together. And I don't know. That doesn't do much for me.
It's all technique, no thought, right?
Yeah.
Did you talked about one time about like you made a mistake on the painting? You actually kind of morphed that into.
I did this one of Chicago. It had all the streets. It's called the Loop. So it had the loop, the train loop. And I had the map laid out. I had oriented it to the east, like to the Michigan River, Lake Michigan, rather than north and south like you normally do. And I had it all lined out, Soldier Field and all this stuff. And I had a can of silver paint. And I was doing like some touch things with silver. And I tipped that paint. And a whole thing of paint, it wasn't even like stirred good. It just right on this canvas. And I mean, it was like a 4 foot by 6 foot canvas. There's no getting it off. I mean, it was like, and at first you just want to throw up, So then I just started, I'm like, okay, I'm going to run with this. And I just started moving it around, and it turned out to be really cool. It was totally a mistake.
One of my favorite professors, Alan Stasel, said he would call that a happy accident.
Yeah, it's a happy accident. I think every painting I've listened to this is a trend among artists that about halfway through, you hate it. You're like, I hate this. I'm sure you guys experienced this in some of your designs.
We were going through it with that house.
Yeah. I hate this now. It's like you stared at it too long, something,
Or you see something else that
could have been done.
Yeah. And you want to put it in there. And we get that with a lot of clients too. Clients will come to you and be like, no, I want to do this now. And it's like, save that for next time.
Yes.
I sent a little draft rendering just showing material color and whatnot to a client the other day. It's a group of 7 people. They responded with an AI modified version of my rendering saying, these are the materials, these are the colors we'd like. I'm like, and then I thought to myself, couldn't they have just called me and said, just make it monotone?
Yeah. What do they say? A camel is a horse that's been created by a committee. Have you ever heard that?
I don't think so.
That's funny. That makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That sounds like funny. The platypus.
Yeah. Well, who thought
it's
this
got to have a bill.
Yeah, put a bill on there.
Yeah. Anyways, like going into like kind of future thought of like where you want to go with like kind of your art, and then also I know you're pretty involved with other projects and other things, but maybe where you want to see like certain things go, or
as far as my art, or
your
more
art, or even just like some other projects that you might be working on that.
With the art, I mean, one of the kind of like a goal is to have a significant piece of art in a coffee shop that I like in all 50 states. So that's
That's a good goal.
I'm 62. I better get hustling, right?
Yeah.
So I've got a few in some really cool places, and that's fun. In fact, I saw somebody the other day, and they were like, "Hey, I was down in Waco, and I just asked a random person about a coffee shop, and they sent me this coffee shop, and I'm standing there waiting on my drink, and I looked up, and I think, man, that looks a lot like Paul Cook's paintings." And then started reading it, and it was yours, he said, So that was pretty cool. I would love that to happen in a lot of different places. But, so that would be one thing. But I really would like to spend more time with art. Actually, I would enjoy that a lot. But I don't have the liberty to just, burn a lot of hours doing that. But I like it. I would like the freedom I'm in the church world, and I would like to have the freedom to help a lot of people that are struggling in the trenches with church. They don't know what to do in this season with where the church should go and how to think about. I want to help people return back to the missional, relational aspect of Christianity and stop looking at it through the lens of institutional and attractional. To me, this is getting an eye roll, and it's not what Jesus intended it to be built, and it's not scalable. It doesn't resonate with a lot of people that are outside of that world. So I really would like to help create vision with book. I have a book I'm writing. I do some mentoring of pastors. I would really like to see that shift happen. I call it bright spot shift.
So a lot of that whole idea of bringing the community into that realm rather than trying to bring a person in and then they leave that.
You mean the institution?
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So we have the institution, and we bring the people in.
Right.
Just come and be a part of our part of this institution, and it's not really.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much disappointment that happens around institution and the attractional model. I mean, you're going to be disappointed because it's not what Jesus designed. So you're looking for it to fulfill something in you that it just won't. It can only do so much, right? And it's not scalable. I mean, how many pieces of real estate do you need to have to reach everybody in the world? If that's your model, right?
Yeah. We have the internet. You don't need any real estate.
Right, exactly. It's a belief system. I mean, that's what it was for 300 years before Constantine incorporated it into the Roman government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I'm thinking about that, the homeless example you gave of that, the community.
Right.
You bring the person in and you provide them certain things, but they still go back to the community.
Yeah.
So
I think there's no, God is the one in charge. You know what I mean? I'm not going to try to pontificate as if I know exactly what to do with everything. I'll just let him be in charge of what he's in charge of, So I think it takes everything, and I don't want to poo-poo, institutional religion to the point of like it's my enemy. I just think that, there's got to be a growing awareness that we got to go back to this. And Christianity can exist in all kinds of environments. And some of them don't translate into a weekend Sunday thing. It's really something that's happening in people's hearts. Jesus said it to the disciples, the kingdom is within you. It's not in it. And he said it as a rebuttal to their enamored ways with the temple, Herod's temple at the time. He was like, hey, there's going to be a time when there's not even a stone left on one another right here. So don't get your eyes fixed on that, because the kingdom is not here or there. It's within you, right? So I think that's what we got to go back to, is our belief system is within us. And by the way, if you have something like a piece of real estate, well, steward it. That's great.
Yeah.
But that's not your religion.
Yeah. Yeah. You have any examples of that, of churches that are trying to do that or are looking at that? Because I know there's a lot of churches that sit with acres and acres of land that aren't even being used at this moment.
Oh yeah. Back to the child care thing, I think I see a wave of that happening, and I think that's cool, to offer those facilities for child care. I think that there are some growing groups, they would call themselves missional rather than attractional. I have a friend in Alton, Illinois, St. Louis area, who has a coffee shop inside of an old post office. Talk about a cool building. This old, how they made those stately looking 1920 marble,
turn of the century.
yes,
Yeah.
one of those buildings was given to them, and they have it filled with like micro businesses. So they will help people start a business and be housed inside of that facility. It's a coffee
That's
shop.
pretty neat.
They have like a kind of like a whiskey or bourbon bar or something. They have a coffee roaster in there. There's artists. There's different people that have their little business out of there. They do some shared services, which I think is a cool model that's happening now, where you need an accountant, I need an accountant. Let's share one.
Yeah.
So they have some shared services in there. They help them do
That's
their
neat.
taxes, get people, help them build their dreams. And so that has become a really cool model. And they don't actually have a church in the real sense of church. But
Yeah.
that's their mission, is a Jesus
But it's community.
mission. Yeah, it's a Jesus mission. They're on mission for Jesus, but they're not doing it in an attractional model. They're doing it in a service model.
Yeah.
I like
think-
it.
I think you see a lot of that. I mean, even in like the business world, like community wise, I mean, there's different parts of like Dallas that are very like booming, like Legacy West.
Okay.
Like there's just a community of businesses there that thrive on each other, right?
Yes.
And they provided housing, and they provide retail spaces and all that stuff. I mean, of course, it's a different missional mindset, but it's
Yeah, I think we got to take it out of just institution, like the church has got to do everything. No, it's Christians inside of the marketplace, right? Be a good person inside of your place, right? If a business owner has 250 employees, what kind of a gift has he given to the community, right? He has offered a livelihood for, dozens of families. If he prospers and does well, it has a trickle-down effect. I mean, this is kingdom stuff. If you want to be a believer, that's as important, if not more important, than some mega church. And I see, not to name names, but there's some of these big pastor names, then they have multiple campuses and video venues, and you drive by them and they've put 12, 15, 20 million in these campuses, and you drive by and there's not 2 cars in that parking lot for 6 days in a row.
Yeah.
It's a crime.
Yeah. It seems like you could have built affordable housing or
Something.
done something more.
a ball field for the community. So anything.
because a $20 million that goes a long ways.
Well,
$20 million build you 200 apartments.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. $20 million. I can think of a lot of ways to use $20 million.
Yeah.
Retail spaces, business space,
Yeah, or you could, I just watched Macy's go out over there on Stacy Road here in North Dallas, and I'm thinking, I was driving by there and I'm like, man, that'd be a great space for something community to happen, something cool. I always wanted to do church in that kind of a setting, like rent a space like that and have it be multiple things, and you're just a part of the community, not like a standout building. Because I think a lot of people that need church actually drive by a church and go, I ain't going in there. They're not they're not coming.
They're not going to go
If
near
that's
it.
your model, they're not coming. So
That's cool. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of part of, I guess you were asking me about, what I want to do with my life. Art is, that's kind of a fun piece. It's kind of a fun project. The
It's
mentoring.
more of the hobby stuff.
Yeah. The mentoring part of, helping pastors in the kingdom of God in the Christian world move back to more of a missional, relational idea is something that beats with my heart. So those are kind of my 2 go-to things.
Nice.
And then architecture. Wait.
Yeah. Then architecture. Yeah. Like
That's just fun stuff.
what do you want to continue in that?
My
'Cause I know you
Toledo
still
building.
have. Yeah.
My Toledo building up there in downtown Toledo. You've seen it.
Yeah. How's that going?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We tried to
we worked
design
on
a
it,
whole
yeah.
street.
We did.
Yeah.
I mean, block.
We did design the whole
a
street.
block.
I know. I just
At one
need.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, I need more money than I have. I have bigger dreams than I have money. That's the whole problem.
That
But
sounds very familiar.
yeah, I mean that place. I just I just want to do something so outstanding there. And so I just keep pausing because I don't want to do this half effort, And I also don't have the luxury of not burying myself financially, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have to be cautious. So then I just keep waiting.
Keep waiting.
We got some cool designs waiting though.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully one day that will get finished. and
The
completed.
contractor told me this week, he said, you really need to put a roof on both of these buildings. I'm like, no, you gotta be kidding me.
Oh, man.
Just for overtime. And you gotta protect it, put a lid on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you don't destroy the stuff that you've already done underneath.
Right, and that makes me think if I'm going to do that, then there's the outside of that building, you could do some really cool stuff like they do in the New Yorks of the world when they take an old building like that and do something modern, kind of bolted onto it.
Yeah.
Makes me want to do
Within
that kind of stuff.
the old structure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some cool stuff. Get that building in Toledo. When you walk up to it, it's leaning.
It has a few
It has a
bows.
bow in it, but it was just built that way.
Yeah.
Like once you start diving into it, like you're like, oh, it's not falling over. It's just bowed out because it was built that way.
Then the question is, was it built like that on purpose?
Yeah.
Or did they mess something up? They were like, eh.
I don't think it was built like that on purpose. I think it was
Some
just
people were
it just
drinking
happened.
that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Very different conversation, even outside of architecture, and that kind of the whole purpose of
Yeah,
this
the
is
whole
like
purpose
we're
of being
just
here.
Well, my
distilling
wish for
down
you
to-
guys is that you get a few of those standout opportunities, like something
Yeah.
to build that's like, yep, we built that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, we actually had an opportunity with a church in South Dallas.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's ever going to
Oh
come
yeah,
back around or not. I mean, that would have been a great community-driven
yes.
thing. That
Yes.
would have been very nice. And it's...
You're talking about the part on the golf course.
Yeah.
Yes.
the golf
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
and there's more to it too that
yeah.
we don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still there. It's just
I think the location is just begging for them to go ahead and go all the way because that's so near downtown.
yeah, and the community wants it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people. I mean, it's surrounded by housing. I think the community would be in there all the time using the pool and
Yeah.
Yeah.
whatever, and
The community didn't want, so I guess it was the Hoffines that wanted to go in there and buy up that golf course.
they were going to replace it with
And they were
houses,
gonna-
right?
Yeah, they were going to go in and put nice
Yeah.
houses in there, or a community and housing community in there.
Yeah.
And the community pushed back on that,
Yeah.
and luckily a certain person stepped in and
Yeah.
really
stuck
to his guns.
It's hard to find old courses like that with the old trees already there.
Yeah.
And the,
It's
undulating.
a gorgeous course.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever
I
played it.
haven't played it, but I just know that feel and built around a river, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got the river, and then there's just a lot of history down in there.
Mm-hmm.
Hate to see that go.
Yeah, it's a shame that it hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Or might not happen even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully some things will happen with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. It would have been a really nice part because we were looking at doing mid-century modern with contemporary mass timber kind of
Yeah.
twist on it. And,
Yeah.
and it
And
was
a nod to the traditional because of the history.
we
Yeah.
had some really what I thought were some pretty gorgeous looking designs, and it's
Yeah.
just a shame.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna build my
That's
little
part of the
bunkhouse
architecture.
up there in Bug Tussle, and it's gonna just be a little small structure, but I want it to be like a head turner.
Yeah.
I
I send you stuff all the time, like
Yeah.
with like little things. They're just
What comes up in
cool.
your Facebook feed? Do you have Facebook?
Yeah, but I look at it for humor. That's
Yeah. Well, yeah, it depends on what what you scroll. But it's funny because mine, I just get hit with all this architecture stuff all the time because I
Yeah.
must click on it a bunch because then it just keeps feeding.
sending it to you, yeah.
Which is fun.
That's my IG feed is like that. Yeah.
And then I get, like an hour, I'm just sitting there, and then an hour later, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm just looking at
An
art.
hour later, you're like, doom scrolling architecture.
Yes.
Doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling.
That's
is
funny.
right.
Well, just to close out, just appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, it's
doing
fun,
this
man.
with us and helping us out.
Yeah. I
Ballard.
celebrate Left Brain Studios and Distilled and the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
So cool.
So yeah, just a shout out to kind of your Paul Michael Cook art, whatever that is. Like,
Yeah, man. I want to put one in your, what is that, Cliff House?
the
Cliff
Cliffbrook
Brook.
House.
Cliff
Yeah.
Brook House.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah.
I want a
We've
spot.
talked about that.
Yeah, let's.
We'd like to.
Yeah, that's,
I've already
that's
I've already got a Dallas one, but I think it's a little bit too. It's going to take a special person to love that one.
Yeah.
So I probably need to do something that's a little more, a little less of a reach. But
Yeah.
Well, we should start conceptualizing that piece of art.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a few places in the building, in the house, that will lend itself to a large piece of art. So
Yeah.
Yeah, big is good, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well,
Cool.
thanks
Well, thanks
everybody
again,
for
yeah.
joining us with this conversation, and make sure you like, subscribe with us, and continue listening to us.
yeah, we'll see you
Thanks.
next time. Thank you.
Yeah.